Hello and welcome back to Resolutionary Leaders. I'm Helena Gotto, your host, and today we have Melanie Mitchell. Melanie Mitchell works to enable people to leave their miserable jobs. And if you've been listening, that I'm a big fan of doing that because the impact of a toxic work environment on you and everybody in your life can be devastating. So welcome, Melanie. I'm really happy to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start out. Your background is that you were a recruiter, so you know all about how to get a job. But tell us a little bit about why you stayed in your job longer than you possibly might.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things that I call what I was in a toxic company. I had actually, my direct boss was really good. It was the people above that were not so good or not investing in the people themselves. And I was a single mom. I had a young daughter who had many activities, and my boss definitely allowed me to have freedom that I thought I wouldn't have otherwise to be because he wasn't keeping me under his thumb and I could come and go and when I needed to. And that flexibility was really important to me. I also didn't want to start over in terms of sales in my book of business. I thought, I'm not going to hit the salary that I'm at, or I made all sorts of excuses in my head. But the reality is, the one thing I realized I never did was I didn't go out and actually research that. I made these assumptions that, oh, I'm not going to find this or I'm not going to find that. Of course, you're not going to find it if one, you don't look, but two, you tell yourself that. And then when I started getting into coaching fell into by accident because I was going through my own job search. After I left this company, I was with them for 8 years, started this little business on the side. I call it a little, it wasn't even supposed to be a business. It was just me earning some extra income that I needed as the single mother that was going through her own career changes and pivots. But when I really started diving into really deeply into my coaching, that's when I started seeing, in particular, women that were staying at companies for the exact same reasons that I stayed recently, even with their employers telling them, you should be lucky that we're paying you this salary. You're never going to make this salary anywhere else. You're already at the top of the market. Literally telling them these things. And to the point that they're pushing them down. And then, of course, we believe the lies that we tell ourselves. But then, of course, if other people are saying it and making us feel small and making us feel less than, then we believe that. And this one particular client, she really truly didn't think she could find another opportunity that was she's also the primary insurance holder. And so there's all these factors that were pulling her, but she was like, okay, what if I'm going to just try to see what's out there, but I don't think there's anything that's going to match this. And long story short, she actually ended up finding something that she was paid more money than she was making, a better opportunity, being recognized for her contribution, automatically being brought into a company at a higher level than where she was at and had been there for 20 years.
Oh,
I see this pattern over, and a lot of it does stem from the toxicity. Once you get caught up in a toxic system, it is hard. It's like being sick. If you don't let your body fully recover, you end up getting sick again. Or we repeat that cycle, or we don't fully recover and we're always playing catch up. And it's the same with being in a toxic work environment or with toxic bosses. It starts to eat at you in ways that you don't realize it. And that's also what keeps us there. Because honestly, by the time you get home at night, you've got nothing left to give to
yeah.
anybody, but yet you probably have to give something to your partner, to the kid, to your parents, even whoever it is, or whatever you've got going on. There's still people that need you. And so there's nothing to give to yourself.
It's like being thirsty and drinking water from a poison well and
Mhm.
continuing to be thirsty and keeping drinking from the same well and just getting sicker and sicker. And I really resonate with what you're saying. I noticed it. It was a pattern that I saw in the toxic work environment that I found myself in. Those of us that were new to the company, we bounced really quickly. We're like, what? Hey, hell no. And then there were other people that had been there for a much, much longer time. And not only was there the drinking from the continuing to drink from the poison. There was loyalty to the company from the years that had been good, from when
Mhm.
they had been treated well and they had this loyalty. That's not the reality now. And it really, I watched it take such a toll on some really amazing women. They were all women who were really felt like they were in a corner and just couldn't get out. So I love that you are now coaching women, that you do to get new jobs. You help people with their resumes and really, how much of it do you find when people come to you? How often are they coming to you go, fix my resume, I need to get a new job? Or is it, I hate my job, I don't know what to do? And then it's a certain period of empowerment of getting them to a point where they feel like, okay, maybe I can do that. Is
I think it's honestly, it's definitely more than half. I would probably say something like 8 out of 10. It's probably a fairly high percentage where I get more people that are just like, I'm at a pivotal point where I either have to quit or I have to get out of here. I have to get out of here. And or not being recognized too. And toxicity shows up in other ways. It's not just somebody talking down to you or talking poorly. It's you not being recognized. If you've been there for a certain period of time and you continuously passed over for opportunities and advancement, you really have to start to question, why is this happening? And truthfully, it's because they are taking, and you mentioned the loyalty, you've got loyalty to them, but do they have that same loyalty to you? Are you having to fight for, I had to fight for my promotion. Younger gentlemen got promoted before me. And I will admit, I did not handle it gracefully. I did not handle it in any way that I would probably coach. I was livid and I told both I had another manager at that time, and I was like, "I quit, that's it." I was like, "Either you fix this or I quit," because I was like, "I've worked my butt off to get this stupid title, which I've been doing all these years." And
mhm.
again, that's another thing, doing the work without it being recognized in an official, like, a financial way. And yet this kid comes in who's not being successful. And just because he talks the talk and walks the walk and he fits this image, he got promoted. And I was like, this is a slap in my face. I should never have had, at that point, I should have walked. I
Mm.
should have just said, no, enough's enough. That's the last straw.
Why didn't you in that moment?
I think in that moment, I really wanted to prove. I think my pride was probably a big part of it. I really wanted to like, no, you have to give me this promotion. I want this promotion officially on paper. I want it to be known. This is not right. And I'm definitely sure my pride was a big factor as opposed to just walking away. And the truth is, I had a very unique situation where I loved my team. We had such an amazing team, and the guys and the ladies that I worked with, we had a great office. It was everything else outside of the company and from the top down that was really poor. We, in some ways, had secluded ourselves on some little island until people started arriving. And then we were like, oh, y'all need to go back. Y'all need to go back where you came from because we had a good office. But the reality was that wasn't sustainable, and having to go through those times just wasn't, again, should never have had to come to that. Should just never have had to come to that. And again, I see so many people passed over for promotions or not considered for opportunities. And at some point, you do have to say to yourself, if you're telling me I'm doing such a great job and I'm such a fantastic employee, yes, money is just one factor, but it's a big factor and it does speak volumes. It also, titles are important. I'm not an idol driven person per se, which is probably why I was like, okay, I don't need the title. I don't need the title. I'm doing the work. People already recognize me as this. But the reality is titles do matter in the world that we're in today. And they matter on that resume. They matter in that interview.
Do you feel like that you said your team was so close? Do you feel like you were trauma bonded? Like you were bonded because of
Yeah, we were very much like it's us against them kind of mentality. And we were definitely in some degree, definitely I don't know how much of an issue it was. Sorry. And I don't know how much we were specifically trauma bonded, like at what level, but there was some level of it. It was an us against them mentality. And every success we had, we were like, oh, this is not happening in any other office. Like we were very proud and we got to be so close that I know that's another reason I stayed because I had this love for them
And loyalty.
over what was right for me.
I think that's another key thing is the loyalty to the team, to the family, to what will they do if I leave? I can't abandon them. Yeah, where some people just don't have that.
Yeah, some people are like, "Okay, I'm out of here." It's nice knowing all of you, but yeah, I had that in both of my previous job too, where I was bonded to the team and I until I couldn't be and then had to cut away. And in this case, my longest team member had resigned before I quit, and I was grappling and my boss had been fired, and so I was grappling with the fact that I didn't have the reality sunk in really quickly that the people there that were my protector, but two, also the people that I go to were no longer there. They were going to not. And what did that look like to me? And it wasn't a good, when that reality set in, it wasn't a good image. It wasn't someplace I wanted to be.
Mm.
And I knew I couldn't be happy in that situation.
So when you went through that, given that you're a recruiter, you were in a pretty good position to get another job because all of the ins and outs on how do people get jobs. So that sort of was helpful.
Yeah, it was helpful and it wasn't helpful. What I had realized after going through that was the level of toxicity and how much that had just chipped away at who I was and had taken away a lot of my confidence, a lot more than I realized. And so I struggled for a bit. I took some time off to gather my thoughts because I didn't have a plan. That was the other thing. I'm always like, I tell my clients all the time, I'm going to coach you on everything I didn't do that I should have done. I never had the plan. I often said to myself, what is the next step? You're not going to be I was like, I don't want to be a recruiter at 65. I was like, I know that's not the reality. I was like, what am I going to do? I never had an answer. Again, didn't do the research, didn't take the time to invest in myself, figure that question out. So I did take some time off, worked for a friend. That wasn't a great move. Did land an opportunity. And truthfully, I landed that opportunity fairly easy. It wasn't, but again, and I quickly saw there we were going to have issues because they were already not coming through on promises that they had made. The work office situation was supposed to be different. The setup was supposed to be different where I could work from a different office closer to my home, which is something I had negotiated with because of my daughter and being in that remote office a couple of days a week, things like that. I negotiated all of that and then they started reneging. And I was literally like, no, I got out of there very quickly. Unfortunately, it put me behind the curve in terms of the job. So that 2017 was the year. Here I am. I call myself a serial career. I've always I'm like a monogamist in my career. I'm literally like 8 years, 5 years, 3 years. When I land somewhere, I stay. And here all of a sudden I'm like having 3 jobs in 1 year. And I'm like, what the heck and I really thought in my head, like, I've thrown this all away. I've ruined a 20-year career. The 20-year career is out the window. I didn't know where my value was. I lacked confidence. And so I think people didn't quite understand that because there was like, oh, you're the recruiter. And it was like, the issue of landing the interview is never the issue. It was who is showing up for that interview because I started believing that person that didn't have the confidence and didn't know who she was and what she could do. And that's the person that kept showing up at the interviews. And guess what? They don't want to hire that person.
Surprise.
Surprise. They want to hire. I always tell people interviewing is 90% confident you always wonder, how did that person get that job? And I'm like, it's because they were confident. People are attracted to confidence. They're not attracted to arrogance, but confidence. And so when you present yourself as confident and strong, that's an attractive quality that people then buy into. Oh, I think you could do this job. And definitely was not showing up as a confident person in that scenario.
Okay, so if I'm listening to this and I'm in a toxic work environment, I'm like, okay, help me. So, how do I do that? What's the first step?
The first step is I'm going to tell you this. If your mental health is being in jeopardy, and I know this is not, and I come from a place where this was not an easy decision, you need to get out. Okay. Your mental health is first and foremost, or you need to start exercising some resources to get some therapy, see a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, to have that outlet because you need that. Okay. You're going to need that. It's going to be you're probably not realizing how deep this is affecting you. So if you're not sleeping, if you're always stressed out, if you're irritable, if you're snapping at people for no reason, you're just angry, these are all signs of all that toxicity. It's coming out of you.
That's
And
Sleep is so key. I know when I was in this environment, and it wasn't for a long time, but I started just waking up in the middle of the night and just having like bad dream after bad dream of bad. And I wake up in the morning, I'd be exhausted, and I think
right.
in that state, there's no way out of it until you can start sleeping without having nightmares.
Yeah. And especially if you are just in a very bad state mentally health wise, you have to either make the decision to get out or get therapy while you're searching for a job. And then you do, first and foremost, don't believe the facts of, oh, I'm not going to find something better. It may take time. I'm not going to say this is going to happen overnight. But what we do know is that you can, by having what I call a proper job search plan and having a proper strategy that you can implement, and that starts, of course, and part of that is what of the foundation of having a strong resume. I'm a big advocate for LinkedIn as well. So having a strong LinkedIn profile, having a strong presence where things are starting to work for as opposed to just having nothing in place.
Mhm.
And so you can have a LinkedIn profile as a great tool to be able to be working for you while you're actively looking for other opportunities, talking to your network, asking them about opportunities, the people that you can truly trust. Where should you look? What kind of companies? And doing some research on what opportunities are out there based on the types of jobs that you would be particularly interested in and qualified for. And it's okay too. You may have to take a job that isn't necessarily the dream job after that if it is a really bad situation and time is of the essence. And that's okay. That it doesn't mean where you have to end up for the rest of your life. And I think we sometimes set out with an idea of what we want. And then when we're not presented with it, we're like, that's not doable. And instead, let's look at the options that we have available and let's examine them and what can work, what cannot work, what are your must haves. Really understanding these values of what you're looking for. So one, don't repeat the same mistakes. And that's like with the second company I had gotten hired for, when they didn't come through on some promises, I was like, we've got to have a conversation. Either you've got to pay for the parking because I need to be reimbursed for this. This was not what I was expecting. And then they denied that. And I was like, okay. And they kept pushing the time of when I could work in this other office. It was like, can you just do it one more week? I agreed to one more week. And then that weekend, it was like, can you do it one more week? And I was like, why is this such an issue? I have a laptop. I can work anywhere. Like, why are we having this conversation? Recognizing the signs, being much more vigilant for yourself and not afraid to speak up either. You are going to be your best advocate. There's nobody else in this world that can be an advocate for you. And the best one out there is always going to be yourself.
Yeah, yeah. It must feel really good when the people you work with call you up and say, "Got the job."
Well, I get very excited. I am so like, I'm always that happy mom. I'm like proud of them. And I'm excited for the new opportunities that they can now have and that they've achieved one of their goals and the fact that we set out on a mission to do it. And because job searching is one of those things that I can't make that guarantee. Because and nobody really can because we don't control the situation. I used to tell my clients when I was recruiting that would get upset with me if the candidate didn't do well in the interview or something like that. And I'm like, you do know the person's human, right? I don't control. Did you talk to them about X, Y? And I'm like, yes, I explained that. We prepared for it, but I can't control the responses. It's like job searching is hard. People say don't take it personally. And of course, it's personal because there's a lot at stake. So, yeah, when we can overcome all these obstacles and land that job that they're actually looking for, even better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always believe rejection is protection. So sometimes you just got to fall back on that. I don't know why I didn't get that. I thought that I was perfect and I thought it was perfect, but just maybe there's something I don't know.
I'm a big believer that everything happens in this world for a reason. Sometimes we may never know why things happened or what the cause is or anything of that nature. So those pieces of the puzzle may never be filled in. But I do believe that where we end up is where we're supposed to, whatever journey we're supposed to be going on is there's a purpose for that.
And I think that's such a state of mind. And when you were saying earlier about not getting the promotion and being like, I deserve this promotion. And you did deserve that promotion. The challenge with the state that you were in is you were waiting for someone to give you something. You were waiting for something that you were not in control of that. You're in control of doing a great job, which you were doing, but you were not in control of the one thing that you wanted, which was the promotion. And the moment that you just focus on, okay, can't control that, that may never happen. And what does this mean for me? What can I control? And that's go on another interview, find another job.
Yeah, and at that point, I can always look back and, of course, the should haves and would haves and things like that, and it's in that moment, I never wish the fact that I had to stand up for myself in that moment, but I am glad that I did stand up for myself, and I did put my foot down, and my boss knew I was serious, and I was serious. I was like, "You either make this happen or I'm done. I don't we're not gonna keep going through this routine." And ultimately, he did make it happen. He got it done. And again, don't know why we couldn't have done it the easy way, but which again, it perpetuated the whole thought of, oh, she's emotional. She's this emotional woman. She's doesn't have control of her emotions. And why is she getting so worked up about this? And it just perpetuated that stereotype once again. And for that, I get frustrated with the thought of it because I hate the fact that I had to play that role to get what I wanted because I did lose my mind. And I know that
Passionate.
I was pushed to the edge. I was pushed to the edge and that was my straw and it broke the camel's back. And I was not, like I said, I wasn't graceful. I wasn't calm. I wasn't cool and collected. I wasn't suave or anything. I literally just was like, yeah, okay. I'm that emotional woman, whatever. But, and again, the fact that we had to get to that, so it's those times when if you think about those bad situations, are they pushing your buttons just to push your buttons? I don't know if our executive vice president just really was so clueless to think that I wouldn't recognize that this other gentleman got promoted before me, or I wouldn't have a response to it. I don't know what his thought process was, but again, just being dismissed and not being heard and not being seen.
Mm, brutal.
And sometimes we need to be truthful with ourselves and ask ourselves, is that how I want? If you're a parent or you have a sibling or wherever, whatever hat you may wear, I always say your best friend, if they told you that what you're going through, if they were going through it and told you that, would you want them to be in that situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then why are you in that situation?
Okay. So now if people want to find you, they can find, what's your website?
Yeah, so you can check out my website at findsucceedachieve.com.
If
Find
Succeed, achieve.
Yep. Dot
Okay.
com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, of course. And yeah, those are the two easiest places to get connected with me. And yeah,
You said you have a package right now where people can like a do it yourself resume, but you're offering a 30-minute coaching session with that as well. So that sounds like a great place to start. Um,
yeah, I did it because I recognize in today's market, and I recognize as well that not everybody can afford high end coaching packages and services. So I wanted to be able to offer something for people that I'm giving them the exact tools that I use to create resumes for my clients. I'm giving them the exact step by step process. The only difference is they're going to have to be the ones doing the work. But for those that are purchasing the package, I am giving them a free 30-minute coaching session to help review their finished product and give them feedback, which is actually worth more than the package itself.
that's really generous. That's really you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and have a fabulous evening.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.